pjnet.tv. It is 9:30 East Coast time, and our bumper is running. You see that? What you can't see is that we are recording. What you can't see, well, you can see that we're streaming somewhere. You are watching this somewhere. We're streaming to a lot of places, and our chat room is waiting, and we've got our guest waiting in the green room. Let's start a countdown to Studio 8. Well, welcome back to pjnet.tv. That's my teleprompter right there. It tells me what to say. If you don't know what to say, just say pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. Do I need to put that on the teleprompter? It's not there. There is nothing. Anyway, none of this is real. I'm glad you're here. If you were with us during the previous program, I hope that you enjoyed that. But folks, you are about to hear, and I'm going to tell a story because I like telling stories, and Richard's going to tell you a story too. But I'm going to bring Richard on the big screen and from his bunker in parts unknown. And now, folks, the first time that I met Richard was at the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, somewhat 2 or 3 years, whatever it's been, prior to COVID. Like the first person I met there was the pastor of the church, Andy Clapp. But as soon as I started bringing the gear in, it's almost like sharks when you pour blood in the water. Richard starts, "Woo, dude, what is all this gear you got?" And
awesome stuff, man.
Yeah, and you are still envious of all this gear, but you are.
I am, man.
You've got your sights set to get some high tech gear, but Richard, you have always had, or it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you've had an affinity for high tech stuff and how that can be used in the kingdom. Where did that come from? When did it start?
Oh, well.
He doesn't know, folks. All right.
Yeah. Let's see. Was it Commodore 64? No. I'm telling how old I am now. No, I've always loved computers. And about 12 years ago, I got into web design, and I write simple HTML code. But I've always had this love for cameras, and my family will tell you every time I get around them with a camera, they run. They're like, "No, you're not taking our picture." And I love taking pictures and videos, and so it's just been a passion of mine. It's like a hobby that, in my case, is not an expensive hobby because I use cheap gear, but it's okay. And it's just, but being able to take that and use it to glorify God is everything. I mean, that's the icing on the cake.
Never has there been such an opportunity, in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, I'm just making a truth claim here. Never, technology is becoming more and more affordable. You don't know this, but Sirius Writer has a monthly newsletter, and they actually are featuring me next month. Yeah, because one of their, I think the editor of the news, whatever, contacted me wanting some advice, some counsel on microphones because they're doing more Zoom calls now. They were going to be doing a podcast, and buddy, I uncorked about 2 pages of here's the things here's more than you need to know. But she was, and she actually followed my advice and bought this mic. Now, Richard, there's a newer version of the Blue Yeti.
Beautiful, yeah.
But I don't think, if I thought upgrading would be worth the money, I would. Now, I actually paid more for this microphone than the brand new, better version of it today. But no, they didn't quit making this mic. They simply reduced the price of it. And that's the go-to mic if you're doing a podcast, a Zoom, if you have a computer. A Blue Yeti is the standard by which all others are judged. Now, there are other mics that are in that same class, but Blue Yeti, this mic, has the lion's share of the market, and she actually got one.
Hey. It's a beautiful thing. I owned my own sound business for, 5 years. It was called Element Sound, and I DJ'd, did karaoke, and I sang for my supper. And so I had the best in speakers, the mics, and so forth. And I got a little spoiled. I really loved the good, deep bass sound, the good, clear sound. People would look at me, and I'd pull up with 2,000 watt speakers, 4,000 watt continuous. They go, "Why do you need such big speakers?" And I said, "I don't play it loud. I want you to be able to hear it clear.
Right.
That
You
is
can
my
hear
thing.
the finger sliding on the frets. Well, you would go bananas here at the Eagle's Nest. I've got two 1,000 watt JBL 610 ions, and
Oh,
that's enough sound, folks, to pretty much do a football field.
yeah. I used the PB SP4Xs for a while, and then
Hmm.
downgraded to the 2Xs.
Hmm.
But we could hey, me and you. You know what? I'm gonna be honest, Coach. I'm about 1/10 of what you are. Yeah, I am down here. You're up there. I mean, I am envious because you got it going on, buddy. But I'm learning the hard way, as you call it. I didn't go to school for it, so
Well,
everything
I
I've
didn't either,
learned, I've made
but
mistakes, and
I learned this: buy nice or buy twice.
exactly.
You know, but
You
you
buy the
don't
two
have to
thousand
go
dollars.
out and spend if you don't know what you're doing. You will get ripped off. And anyway, I
Yeah.
doubt anybody out there really cares about our tech talk, but suffice it to say, I'm honored. I'm grateful that Sirius Writer would commit their next month's newsletter to my email that I sent one of their editors, and they just thought it would be a good idea to share that advice because so many people now. This I started this by saying, never has there been such an opportunity. I remember the dial-up days, Richard. I remember when a pastor came to me and said, because he knew I thought outside the box, he kind of knew I was a rebel. He said, "Can we do church online?" And I thought about it, and I said, "No,
There wasn't no way to do
no."
it back
That
then.
was there
No.
was no such thing as a webcam in those days. We had, but boy, things have changed, and the church is still lagging behind. They're doing much better since COVID, but for the wrong reason, of course. But nonetheless, Richard, when we talked earlier this week, we talked a lot of tech, by the way, folks. But we'll spare you that. You've had enough. I get it. You can flood the chat room with comments on the tech talk. You have had some awesome hurdles in your life, and I won't say that you've overcome them, but I'll tell you this: they haven't detoured. They haven't caused you to quit dreaming. They haven't caused you to quit trying. Your eye is on the prize. But share with us a little bit about how you got to where you're at today.
I like to I like to make the comment. People tell me that I'm a big dreamer,
You are.
and I like to look back at them and say, well, why aren't you?
Mm.
You know, do we settle for low level dreaming, or
Yes.
do we go up and try to reach the ceiling of
Hmm.
the 20-foot church that's there? Um, I think that dreaming is good. I also try to keep my feet on the ground and be realistic as well. Um, when I was saved at 12, I rededicated. I was on fire for God. I was there every time the church was open up until I was about 16. I had desires to go to Bob Jones University to be a preacher. I was thinking about being a youth minister when I was a youth, and I highly respected my youth minister. Me and him get along really well. Um, and then my father had a bad accident. I won't go into detail for time's sake, but he had a bad accident, and my life changed dramatically, and I didn't handle it very well. And I quit going to church, and I should have let God handle it, and I didn't. And stopped having faith in people, but I never stopped having faith in God. So I stepped away from the church basically for 30 years. And it wasn't up until um, about 8 years ago, I guess it was, that I rededicated my life serving God. And it was through something that I had to take a leap of faith to do. Um, I had been researching safest places to live in America because I am tired of all the crime that's in our area. And so I boiled it down to three places: Fargo, North Dakota, Caribou, Maine, Rogers City, Michigan. And I researched Rogers City, Michigan, this place, this little bitty town of 2,500 people. And it was supposedly one of the safest places to live in America. And me and my family, my son, his wife, their two kids, and I were living with my mom. My mom was not doing very well. I got to blame again for something I didn't do, and I was told to leave. And suddenly I'm homeless. And it wasn't until I hit that very low spot in my life where I said, okay, I've got nothing else left. I've got nothing here left to keep me here. And I'm going to take off with my family to Rogers City, Michigan. And we went up there with $200 in our pocket when we left, a car full of stuff. We had food stamps for a couple of months, so I wasn't worried about starving, but I had no job waiting for me, no place to live, nothing. Just a feeling through the research and through thinking and feeling that God wanted me there. And Coach, I can't explain to you the peace I had over that drive. If you my friends know me, they know I worry about everything. I double, triple, quadruple check everything before I do anything.
Yes, you do.
And I just packed my bags and I left, and I had no clue what was next. And I got up there. We stayed in a motel that night, and it was middle of November. We had a plan. I had 3 months left, and 3 months, and then we were going to get our taxes money back. I expected about $8,000 in our taxes. We had already figured it up. And my goal was I was going to take my car, sell it, use that money to pay for rent for an apartment for 3 months, get our tax money back, and then start a business, ironically, working on computers. And that was my plan, and I went for it. Got up there, started talking to a used car dealer, told him I was honest. I told him why I was there. I said, I felt like God wanted me here. I'm here for a reason. I need help. Will you buy my car? And he said, come back. We're going to go over here and look at this apartment. We went over, looked at the apartment. We walked in. It was a big house, four apartments in it. I looked at it, and I said, he said, what do you think? I said, well, it's nice. And he looked at me and laughed. He said, it's nice. Yeah, okay. Like you got somewhere else to go. And he said, this was the words I'll never forget. He said, Richard, I'm a Christian. I believe in helping people. Here's the keys. Make yourself at home. And I'm going to tell you, Coach, my jaw dropped. My son's wife was panicking. She was freaking out. What are we going to do tonight? We had a tent and it just snowed. She didn't know what we were going to do. And my jaw dropped. So I went to talk to the guy the next day. He said, look, Richard, rent is $500 a month. That includes electricity, water, everything you need to survive. Pay me when you get your tax money. Okay, sure. And then he gave me $75, told me to go down to the thrift store, buy a couch and some other things, because we didn't have pots and pans. And the next 3 months of my life, I spent thinking about that. And what had happened was there were people in the town, like this guy that owned a store called Richard's Clothing, who happened to be named Richard, who would like give me a bag of cans he had in his garage. You could take those cans and put them in this machine and get 10 cents for each can. The church there that helped us with a little bit of food here and there, diapers, things like that. And I spent 3 months without a TV. It was the snowiest winter they'd had in 20 years. And I just could not find a job. The one thing that I didn't know about this town that was real safe was that the town of 2,500 people of older retiree people got up and left and went to Florida during the winter. And so the unemployment rate jumped to like 50%. Everything closed down. There was nobody living in the town. Mm-hmm. So it was very hard to find work. I couldn't find a job. I just had 3 months to think, and we got our money back. I paid the guy what I owed him. I said, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll never forget it. We bought an old truck and a $500 camper that was 20 foot long, put our stuff in the camper and came back home to Burlington, North Carolina. And I spent the next a year living in that camper with my family. And I saw what God had did. And I said, God, I'm sorry. I was an idiot. I lost faith in men, but I did not lose faith in you. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. Just tell me. And at that point, I was a babe in Christ again. I was born all over again. I really was just to the point where I had nothing except the heart that went, God, forgive me. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. And the next several years, I worked on a project called Alaska Christian Mission. The reason why was because I did research I Googled teen suicide. I've coached soccer. You've coached football. I've coached soccer, the other football sport. Yeah, the girls' game. I got a story I want to tell you sometime about that. But anyway, so I spent time researching. I thought about being a missionary. I thought about going to college. I thought about doing all this and that. And when I saw teen suicide was 3 times higher in Alaska than anywhere else in the United States, I started researching that. I found out why. I started asking questions. I started talking to people. And I just felt led to thinking that maybe this was what I was supposed to do. And so I went after it. Mm-hmm. I put everything I had into it.
Yes, you did.
And for 2 years, I worked a year and a half, I worked at a Bojangles. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to work at 5, work till 2, go pick up my grandkids from school at 2:30, take them home, make sure they were okay, leave them, go to a restaurant, stand outside with a sign and a donation bucket, and would talk to whoever I could talk to about what I wanted to do. I worked on that for 2 years pretty hard, never could get a church to sponsor me. I realized that if I was going to do it, I was probably going to have to be independent. And during this time, I had this wonderful God-given moment, I want to call it. My car was going down the road, and my car just stopped running. And you might think that's a bad thing, but my car stopped running. I pulled into this parking lot of Mount Zion Baptist Association, and my car died. So I go inside and I say, hey, can I leave this here for a couple of days while I get a tow truck? And, he said, sure. And I started telling him about what I want to do in Alaska and how I wanted to grow food and build a farm to help children. And he said, you know what? You should contact this pastor at Mount Zion Baptist Church called Andy Clapp. And I did. And me and Andy started talking. And you know what? I love that guy. I really do. He's a brother to me. He helped me because I had lost faith in people. And here was this pastor who was taking the time to not only mentor me, but to be my friend. Mm-hmm. And, I owe a lot to Andy. He's a great guy. And I realized at that point through the next couple of years that I felt like God was putting me there for a reason. And I am a camera guy, I'm an equipment guy, and Andy is a speaker. And I joined forces with him. He called me up one day, said, hey, Richard, meet me somewhere. I said, okay. And we met at Subway, and it's very unusual for Andy to call me. Normally I call him. He said, Richard, I got an idea. I want to start another Christian-based TV station here in Alamance County, and I want you to be my partner. And I said, sure, let me pull out the $1 million check, and we'll get this thing going. And we both knew at that point it was going to be a long uphill battle. But I think we also both knew our hearts and our dedication to serving God, and that we wouldn't stop no matter what. We might be dreamers wanting to start another Christian TV station that would literally cost millions of dollars, but by gosh, we were going to try it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. And we set out to making walk by faith, step by step videos and making videos. And I was the cameraman. He was the speaker. And occasionally I'd get in front of the camera, and we went after it. And then COVID hit and shut it all down. But we're trying to kick it back open. But everything happens, I believe, God's plan, and it just takes faith to do it. I keep thinking to myself, what if I had never went to Rogers City, Michigan? What if I had never took that leap of faith? And true, I was at the point where I didn't feel like I had any choice, but still I went. Mm-hmm. I drove all that way up there. And now, January of last year, I stopped working on Alaska Christian Mission because I just felt like God had shut enough doors. And I started seeing this other vision that was coming to me that I really want to talk about some land in Maine that, again, I'm dreaming big here, but this land in Maine that I believe can be used to help children that need the help. And there's places everywhere that help children, but this is just something that I feel very strongly about, and I'd like to explain to you why. I know we're getting close to running out of time, but um, this land, I go to this website every now and then, and I look at this website, and I think maybe I'll go back there and retire one day. Well, I was looking at this land, and it was 400 acres of land for close to $400,000. And I said, sure, I'll look at it. So I go down, I'm looking at the website, and I go to Google Earth, and I go down to the road, and I'm looking around through Google Earth. You know, you can do that, sit on the road and look around. And I saw this church up on the hill. And I thought, okay, this is pretty interesting. So I go up to the church, and I swing over to it and look at it, and lo and behold, this church is designed in the same way that I had been dreaming of building this place in Alaska to help teens. It's called a Texas barn frame. And you can Google that, Texas barn frame. I'll show you what it is. And I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. This church is designed in the same type of way. And then I did a little research and found out that the church's pastor's name is Andy. I said, okay, well, it's not named Richard, it's named Andy, right? Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I found out the church is the same as I believe Baptist. And then I start looking around, and I see this kindergarten through 12th grade school right next to the property. And I thought, what better place to build a place to help kids than next to a school, that's next to a church, that's next to the highway. It's a great location. And I thought, wow, okay, this is pretty interesting. And then I decided to Google teen suicide in Maine. And I'm scrolling through reading about suicide, and I'm realizing it's about as bad there as anywhere else. And I come across this one page. Now, there's going to be the funny part. I've been single for 5 years. I've had this crazy idea that maybe, just maybe, my soulmate's name would be Michelle. Now, Michelle was the first little girl I ever crushed on in first grade. She was the first girl I kissed when I was 12. Michelle has always been a special name for me. So I found this article that says Michelle Rock, DO, joined Center for Autism and Development Disorders as medical director in Maine, October 31st, 2019. I thought, okay, not only is her name Michelle, and she's head over autism, but her last name is Rock. And what does Christ tell us to build our foundation on? Solid rock. So at this point, I'm realizing something. My grandson, who's 8 years old, has a very severe case of autism. He also has epilepsy really bad. He just had a device put in his chest that helps with the vagus nerve to help with his drop seizures. And Michelle Rock is the head over autism and development. Michelle wasn't for me as my future fiance, girlfriend, wife, whatever. It was linked to the most important people in my life, my grandson. So I cried for like a day after I saw this, and I had felt like the biggest failure in my entire life because I could not make Alaska Christian Mission work. And I fought God on it for a month or two. And then I told God, and I went to church that Sunday morning. I told Andy, I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to what that preacher says over that church on the land on Facebook. If he says something I need to hear, I'm going to know God's talking to me. And I go to listen to the preaching later that day, and he preaches on one verse. And I'm going to read it to you, the Holman Christian version. James chapter 1, verse 27 says, pure and undefiled religion before God our Father is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Now, distress to me could be defined as autism or any type of disorder or suicide. And I looked at that and I thought the one verse that talks about children in their distress, and there it is, that one Sunday morning. And I decided to go back and look at the beginning of James chapter 1 just to see what was leading up to that point. And James chapter 1 starts out talking about the trials that we go trials and maturity that we go through to make us stronger and better with Christ. And I then realized that everything that I had been going through, all the hard work, all the dedication that I put into trying to build Alaska Christian Mission and trying to build this TV station, was God getting me ready for this next step. And I'm going to be honest, Coach, I was like, oh God, please. I feel like I've just been ran over by 12 Mack trucks. You want me to raise $400,000 to buy a piece of land in northern Maine? Sure. And I just didn't understand. And then God started showing me this movie. And I literally cried every time I saw this movie play in my head. And I got it from the very beginning of the movie. I skipped through the middle and I got the ending. And I couldn't ever figure out the middle part, but I got to see the beginning and the ending. And every time I saw this movie, I saw it 24/7, 7 days a week, every day. I saw this movie. I'm like, I'm sitting here crying because of what I'm seeing. And I told Andy about it. And I said, you know what? I am a low budget video guy. I have very cheap equipment. I have very limited experience making videos, but you're the one, Andy, that came to me 2.5 years ago and said, hey, let's make TV shows and movies. Let's write this movie. And I say let's because I had I call it the bones. I had the bones of the movie. I had the beginning to end. And I asked Andy to help me by filling in the rest of it and really writing it better, because I'm like a third grader in writing compared to his college degree. And so Andy is taking that movie idea and writing it into a real script. And we are hoping, Lord willing, to start to have the script done by, say, mid-June and start shooting this movie by mid-July. And I'm set a goal to have it out at the latest by November 20th. And we're going to take the ticket sales from that movie and purchase that 400 acres of land in northern Maine. What am I going to do with that land? There's a lot of things you can do with 400 acres of land. But one of the things I want to do is sometime down the road, I want to set up a orphanage for foster children that have autistic disorders. Mm-hmm. I talked to a lady in the foster care system up there, and she said that 25 out of 100 kids that go through their system have some form of autism, and they're hard to place because of that autism. Mm-hmm. And if I could somehow make enough money down the road to make this place a reality, we could do a lot of things on the land. One of the things I want to do is try to build something to help children in need with autism, whether it be make a medical clinic, whatever. I think the first step is to buy the land. Once you buy the land, then you can daydream. That's the way it feels in my book. So the biggest goal I've got right now is we're working on this goal of writing this movie, making this movie. Andy's an awesome writer, great writer. And we're going to film it. It's not going to be a high budget film for sure, but it's going to be made with a lot of love and care, and I'm hoping to make it at least look halfway decent.
Well, keep dreaming, Richard, and folks, if you have felt like you can't do or won't do whatever, Richard, you have shown us that God has a plan for each of us, and we just need to be obedient and submissive to that, and we have to trust God. But Richard, I appreciate you sharing with us tonight. Thank you for your testimony. Go to the chat room, pjnet.tv, and read some of the comments yourself, and we appreciate you sharing tonight.
Thank you, Coach. I know I went way over, but I appreciate your patience.
I appreciate you sharing, Richard.
Love you. Talk to you later.
All right, Richard Smith, and there you see the view of the Eagle's Nest broadcast facilities, and I hope that you were moved by that inspiring testimony from Richard Smith and hearing from Holland Webb. What a great night it's been. Folks, you may have noticed me guzzling the Gatorade. I'm not feeling very well. I think I want to go to bed. But in any event, thank you for your long suffering and staying with us. And I hope that we will be back tomorrow night about 9 p.m. Eastern, as we always are, Monday through Thursday. And we're looking forward to a good time. And we hope that you'll make your plans to join us here at pjnet.tv. But until then, I ask you to ask yourself 2 questions. Here's the first one. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Maybe a big dream that you push aside. The second question is, how long ago was that? And I certainly hope that none of us will be happy with either answer.